Greetings, Groaners! Episode 155 is a special because this coming Monday, that's the 13th of October, is Indigenous Peoples Day. On this day, we honour the actual native people who lived in and around America before they were settled by outsiders. For example, the Native Americans, aka the Indians. Whichever way you look at the world today, history is history, and you may be able to track your family back so far, but the soil you were on, in America, so for example, belonged to someone native before you did. Moving on, this show will be jammed with games courtesy of me, and facts courtesy of Admin Nicole, as well as her story. It may be a long special too. As always with most specials, not everything will fit in with the topic. Your games this week are Yes or BS, the 5-point countdown, 50-50, and Who the Hell Are We? Starting the show off will be Admin Nicole with her first Indigenous Peoples facts. Going forward though, I'll be calling them IP facts, for the sake of my pronunciation, in case I get Indigenous wrong. If I get anything wrong, no offence meant. The day honours the Indigenous people of the United States, American Indians, Native Alaskans, and Native Hawaiians, most of whom were violently uprooted and exploited beginning with the arrival of Europeans in the Americas. We all know our history. More facts to come later. And now I give you my groans. Naming new towns' old names. New Berlin. New England. The list goes on. We could see these possibly are states. Sorry about that. When making a new town or state or whatever, why not come up with a better name? But it wouldn't be a state, it'd definitely be a town or a city. Why not come up with a better name instead of just putting the word new in front of it? Come up with a completely different name, something that stands out. Just a thought, because originality is slowly dying in this world. False hope. I will never understand how someone would build someone up, for example a friend or their own child, about something only to smash their hopes to bits when you've pretty much lied to that person. Anyway, it's like saying to your dog, you're going to take them to the park, or to watch animals face into horror as you pull up with the groomers. Or worse, dun dun dun, the vet. Just tell people the truth. If you cannot afford to take them somewhere, don't say you can. A lingering cough. I'm well over my resident cold now, but my immune system can still not shake off the cough that I've been left with, and it's lingering harder than a fart in an elevator. I can't shake it. Lozenges, tablets, vapor sticks, nothing works. Beating my chest like a drum also doesn't work either, but it was worth a shot. Bloody common cold. My groans have now been flushed like so many toilets, but we'll have one more wipe to go in the form of the audience groan later on. Batter up now in the form of the first game of the episode, which is 50-50. One question per round, 3 rounds, 2 options to pick from. You've got half a chance to get it right, hence 50-50. Round 1. There are many languages of indigenous cultures spoken across America, but just how many is that? Is it A, 976, or B, over 1,000? Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. Round 2. The indigenous peoples of the Americas migrated from Asia to the Americas over A, 16,000 years ago, or B, 12,000 years ago. Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. Final round for this game, round 3. According to the US Census Bureau, there are more than A, 9 million, or B, 6.8 million Native Americans and Alaska Natives in the United States today. Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. And with that, that's 50-50 finished. Did you get your answer mashed up right? We'll find out later on in the show. Bouncing back up to Adam and Nicole again, we have Creepy Corner. Your story for this week's episode is called Never Underestimate What You Don't Know. Robin rushed to Carla and warned them they had to leave. Time was up. They had to get to that lift now. One way out of this place, and it would no doubt be swarming with scientists refusing to let experiments escape. A problem that was new to them all the same. Carla picked up Cove and tried to assure him not to worry, but she really needed him to be as quiet as he could be for a while. Robin led them to another exit, different to the way he came in. He was never one for risk after all. A short crawl through a vent system later, and they came up in the kitchens, thankfully empty, which was good news for them. Robin didn't want to stop moving though. He had 5 years in this place, had the entire layout memorised, and ran through this exact pattern multiple times ready for when he had to escape. The only difference now was that he had something that the scientists weren't going to let go of so easily. He led Carla from wall to wall, crouching past cabinets and sticking to walls. Even with the area empty, he wasn't taking any risk. A narrow hallway past the kitchen led to a room with multiple pools inside. Once again it was empty, but unfortunately seeing all that water meant Cove had to jump in, so he ran straight for it and hid in the shell as he floated across the surface of the water. Robin allowed him a few minutes as he stood at the door monitoring the nearby hallways. Any words of footsteps were heard, and they had to be fast. Carla, on the other hand, was relieved seeing Cove having no worries, so she left him to float and relax, taking on his worries for him. Then she walked with Robin to help him monitor the hallways. That was just an excuse. She had known since she freed her that he was holding back from her, something he didn't want her to know, and in a small break, she had to know. However, when she asked him, he simply told her she was better off not knowing. He didn't want to hurt her feelings any more than he already had. It's about Lily though, isn't it? You know what happened to her, don't you? Carla asked. Robin sighed and looked at the ground, briefly diverting his attention from the hallways as he looked her in the eye. If you ever see her up there, please just run. Don't make contact, don't try to get through to her, just run and don't stop running. I'll explain to you properly later once I've made sure you and Cove are safe, but for now please let this be enough. Promise you won't make contact if you see her up there, Robin asked. Carla was upset, but she knew to listen to Robin. After all, he knew what happened. Yet she could understand the greater threat at stake in this very moment. When she turned around to check on Cove, she noticed his shell was out of the water, and suddenly she knew something was wrong. The scientists sneaked in while they were distracted, and Carla couldn't help but blame herself for it. On the other end of the room, scientists were gathered. No doubt they got through in the hidden passages Robin didn't know about. One of them was holding onto Cove outside of his shell. Carla wasn't sure he was safe without his shell, but this wasn't the time for thinking. One wrong move, and they never see Cove again, and he ends up just like Lily, if not worse. So Robin did what he had to, and told Cove to bite them. Just as he had remembered from his file, now was as good a time as any to check just how powerful Cove really was. Cove's face lit up instantly, and in an instant, he bit the scientist that was holding him, and he crashed to the ground instantly, never to move again. The venom in Cove's teeth was a lot stronger than Robin had anticipated. It was something he would look forward to testing out more, but right now, in the confusion, Robin ran faster than anyone could see and grabbed hold of Cove and his shell before it was time to run. There was no time to be slow anymore. They had to get the lift now. They had a lot of scientists behind them now, and alarms put in the place on lockdown, but Robin wasn't worried. He would get them out of there, even if he had to stay behind. They made it to the lift, and as Cove would stand by pushing the button for them, the scientists had gathered around them. They were completely surrounded now. Carla was worried they wouldn't make it out. Cove was fascinated by the light on the lift button, and paying no attention to the danger in front of them, and Robin simply laughed like a man who had finally lost his mind. Then the lift doors opened, and Carla grabbed Cove and headed inside telling Robin to hurry, but the scientists wouldn't leave them alone. Scientists that by now Robin had realised were also trained soldiers. Yet he wasn't worried because he knew they wouldn't get past him. You know, it really amused me to think of just how pathetic you guys really are. I'm the one you don't want, the reject, the failure, the outcast. Toss it in the trash or burn it up, right? After all, that's what you normally do, isn't it? However, that's where you're wrong. The chemical, or whatever you injected us with to make sure we would retain some humanoid form, is exactly what hid my blessing all along. A few lies here and there, and you were none the wiser. I'll enlighten you though. What do you think happens when you mix a chemical retained in human form and the DNA of an animal that shares over 90% DNA with humans? You get me. An experiment that doesn't look any different to the rest of you. But I'm so much better. I'm the great western lowland gorilla. My strength and speed is unparalleled to anything you could even hope to have. And man, have I been waiting for this day to come, he explained. Following even more laughter as the scientists planned to attack, Robin slammed his fist into the ground, immediately caving in the floor in front of him to stop the scientists from following, and for good measure, he tore a cabinet off the wall with only one hand and threw it at the scientists before heading for the lift, watching the doors close as he continued to laugh while the three headed for the surface, to a world they never knew and couldn't know what to expect from. Nicole, that almost sounded like the end of a superhero movie where the good guys escape and one of them finds this, like, the hidden powers. Well written. But we stick with Nicole for the second IP fact of the episode. This day now officially replaces Columbus Day, a holiday once held to honour Christopher Columbus' arrival in America. Historical information came to light about this mistreatment and enslavement that Columbus and his men committed towards Indigenous people, and by 1977 the idea of replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day was proposed at the United Nations. So is Christopher Columbus still celebrated as an explorer? I'm not sure. Hit us up in the comments or message us if you know. With facts Nicole gives us, we learn, but I'm going to test you now, groaners, with the 5-point countdown. Yes, it's the second game of the episode. Clue 5 for 5 points. The Indians will put on them, but also use them for dinner plans. Pause here, groaners. Have a little think, answer, then unpause. Or guess, then unpause. Clue 4 for 4 points. If you're unsure about something, this word can also be used to explain what you have. Pause here, groaners. Have a guess, then unpause. Clue 3 for 3 points. As well as for dinner plans, you can also use them for room bookings. Pause here, groaners. Guess again, then unpause. Clue 2 for 2 points. The biggest one of these is known as Bad River and holds the Ojibwe Indian tribe on an area that is roughly 509 kilometers squared. Pause here, groaners. Toss another guess in, then unpause. And finally, clue 1 for 1 point. There are 326 of them in the USA, and some of them are shared between the Indian tribes. Pause here, groaners. Have a think, have a guess, then unpause. The answer will be revealed soon enough to you, groaners. But yes, speaking of you, groaners, one of you out there reached out to us at Grown Zone headquarters via email. That was F. Bubbington of Northern Ireland, and they groan. In this current day and age, everyone should be aware of the need for self-sanitation to keep oneself healthy. Yet why is it some people, this doesn't include people who don't have control of their mental capabilities, just seem to get off on letting their hygiene go to pot? They often smell pretty bad and aren't even aware. Why do they do this? This is a thought-provoking groan. And my only retort to that groaner is that some people just don't give a damn about how they look and smell. Thanks for the groan. If you want to groan in like F. Bubbington did, you can use the email, which is thegrownzonepod@gmail.com. You can hit either one of us up on Facebook Messenger. That's Nicole Amos for Admin Nicole, and Mr. E. Groaner for my good self. You can join us on Facebook groups under the Grown Zone Podcast Facebook group. You can join us on Discord, where we would normally record every Friday, 8:30 Greenwich Mean Time, unless plans or other things happen. You can also leave comments there. You can post up funny things, but please keep it clean. And lastly, you can drop a comment on any platform you listen to on, for example, YouTube. Leave comments there, we'll review them, take it from there, and you never know, what you say to us may feature or make a change for the future of the Grown Zone. Admin Nicole is here once again with another IP fact. South Dakota was the first state in America to officially replace Columbus Day in 1990. Berkeley, California was the first city to change a holiday in 1992. Some states to this day still recognize a holiday as Columbus Day, but have merely removed it as a paid holiday. From facts, we bounce over to the age-old question I always ask, but not in every episode: why oh why? trying to integrate tribes to modern ways. You know, it really bugs me when they try to or force tribespeople to leave their heritage behind. Old ways get forgotten, and mystery and history dies a bit the more we lose such a treasure. I remember seeing a video a while ago where they had some tribespeople drink Coca-Cola. One fainted because their diet just couldn't handle the sugar level. Can't we leave these people alone? Some don't want contact, and others want to exist alongside us, yet keeping their ways. One day technology may die, and the old ways may be all we have left, yet if we aren't careful, no one will be there to show us the way. Forced integration. I simply must ask, why oh why? I've asked the wise groaners, but I must plummet us into the game of chaos, which is yes or BS. You'll know this game, groaners. You should by now. Round 1. A. Aboriginal also applies to Hawaiian Indigenous people. B. Indigenous Hawaiian people originally came from Polynesia. Or C. The first Hawaiians immigrated to Hawaii in 300 AD. From those three statements, groaners, you pick which one you think is true. If you get the false one though, your points, for this game only, get blanked. It's the first round, so get a feel for the game and play from there. Round 2. A. The term the first Americans applies to the pioneers. B. Plains tribes were nomadic. C. Southwestern tribes adapted to woodland areas of America. Pause your groaners as before. Pick your statement. If it's the right one, you'll score points. If it's the wrong one, then your points in the previous round, you're going to get blanked, but you'll only find that out later. Pick your statement, groaner. Last round, round 3. A. Alaska has been inhabited since 5000 BC. B. Alaska is also known as the last frontier. Or C. Yupik is a dialect spoken in Alaska. Have a think, groaners. Pick your statement, and if you get it wrong in this round, all your points for yes or BS go. So there's a lot to play for. And there we go. Well done in advance if you scored any points after being blanked. But if you got completely blanked, you'll find it soon in either case. But if you did, you are linking on to our next section. Oh, unlucky. This may be upsetting for some, and this is in some detail. Apologies if this causes distress. The unluckiest of those born to Indigenous were the children, especially in Canada, in what was known as the Indian residential system, a horrid network of boarding schools where Indigenous children were isolated and removed from their families. By the 1930s, 30% of these kids were in these schools. Where there may be simple regular schools for white children, they were hell to the Indigenous children forced to be there. Many cases of abuse were documented and not exclusively physical. They lost everything about who they were, given white Christian names, and punished whenever they used their actual given name. They lost their language and their culture. They lost their souls. Over 4,000 Indigenous children lost their lives in places like this. These so-called schools were used to help colonization and to destroy the Indigenous cultures that were there long before the white people destroyed everything. Thankfully, however, in 2021, a policy change was finally made allowing the Indigenous to change their names on official documents and return to their true identity. Yet for many, that is and was too late, and even for those who survive, a step forward doesn't always erase a lifetime of torture and fear. Again, we are sorry if that upsets anyone, and is not meant to be made light of. Admin Nicole, moving on, can I take another fact off you, please? Yep, you've got one ready? Perfect. Christopher Columbus was sometimes viewed as the discoverer of America, and in actual fact, his voyages paved the way for colonization and exploitation of those who lived there. A man with a great legacy in his hands, if only he had shown respect and worked with the Taino people, that's Taino, instead of enslaving them, and shipping them off to Spain were reducing diseases they were not familiar with, such as smallpox and influenza, that killed them. Any who resisted the forced labour were killed instantly. Columbus was no hero, and the legacy once honoured deserves to be replaced. You know, I take back what I said earlier, asking if he still celebrated. My God, what a git, to put it mildly. The final fact is coming later, but now we name our heroes out of history. Sitting Bull's up first, and he was a Hunkpapa Lakota leader. His leadership became crucial during the Great Sioux War of 1876, particularly in the famous Battle of Little Bighorn, where he played a key role in the defeat of General Custer's forces. His legacy endures as a symbol of resistance, resilience, and leadership. His unwavering commitment to his people's sovereignty and cultural preservation continues to inspire Native American movements today. Sitting Bull's name remains synonymous with Native American strength and resistance, reminding future generations of the importance of fighting for their heritage and rights. Red Cloud was a prominent Oglala Lakota leader who played a crucial role in resisting US expansion into Native American lands during the 19th century. His most notable achievement was Red Cloud's War, that's 1866 to 1868, during which he effectively opposed the US Army's attempt to build forts along the Bozeman Trail in present-day Montana. His forces successfully pressured the US government into signing the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, which temporarily halted settler encroachment on Lakota lands. Today his name is honoured as a reminder of the struggles and triumphs of Native American leaders who fought to preserve their way of life against insurmountable odds. Tecumseh was a Shawnee leader born in 1768 who was a powerful voice for Native American unity and resistance against US expansion. From an early age, he witnessed the devastating effects of colonial encroachment on indigenous lands, which fueled his determination to protect his people. Unlike many leaders who focused on defending their own tribes, Tecumseh sought to unite multiple native nations into a confederacy strong enough to resist American expansion. Tecumseh's legacy endures as a symbol of native resistance and leadership. His vision of a united indigenous front against American expansion remains one of the most ambitious efforts in Native American history. Though his confederacy did not achieve lasting success, his influence shaped future movements for native sovereignty and rights. Today, Tecumseh is remembered as a brilliant strategist, diplomat, and warrior who dedicated his life to the protection of his people and their lands. I think we can agree these three are legendary figures in their own rights. History will remember them, even if some will forget. It's now time for the Game Answers, Groaners. From last week, Admin Nicole's anagram anxiety. Your anagram solution was the West Lowland gorilla. I had no idea, and of course that animal featured in this week's story from Nicole. Yes or BS. Round 1. If you picked either C... Sorry, Groaners, I should say if you picked C, you have no points, because that was false. It was 400 AD. Round 2. If you went for A or C, your previous points in the round 1 have now gone. The term the first Americans applies to the native Indians, and the southwestern tribes didn't adapt to woodland areas, they adapted to the desert areas. And round 3, if you picked A or C again, you have now totally blanked your points if you scored any at all. For A, Alaska has actually been inhabited. I think I might have got that word wrong. Let's just say people have been in there since 10,000 BC. And for C, you pick isn't a dialect, it's actually the name of one of the native Alaskan peoples. Well done if you came out of Yes or BS with any points at all. The 5-point countdown. Your answer was reservations. That was the word I was looking for. 50-50. For this game I've erased the wrong answers. Well, for the game answers I should say. I've erased the wrong ones. Round 1. There are many languages of indigenous culture spread across America. But just how many is that? It is B. Over 1,000. Round 2. The indigenous people of the Americas migrated from Asia to the Americas over B, 12,000 years ago. And round 3, according to the US Census Bureau, there are more than A, 19 million Native Americans and Alaska Natives in the United States today. Well done if you scored points in any of the games this week, Groaners. Before our final game, Admin Nicole has the final IP fact of the show. Indigenous Peoples Day is to honour the tribes with not only the respect they are long overdue, but also to highlight the cruelty forced upon them and all their ancestors suffered at the hands of Christopher Columbus. You know, I really don't see him as a hero now. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. See, sometimes when you're younger you just don't learn these things, but later in life you learn and you realise a lot of what you were taught was left out. You don't get told some of these things, it's just you're not told. Our last game of the show, which is our weekly alternating game, and the title for it this week is called Who the Hell Are We? The picture will appear on Facebook, Discord, and the Podbean webpage. I've given up trying to put it on any other platforms because it just doesn't show up. But your clue for the image is, when you look at this image, think America, but higher. They are native what? The answer will come next week. Thanks for tuning in, Groaners. This episode has certainly been educational. Apologies for some dark bits, but that is how history can be. Take care. Bye-bye. Are now being flushed like so many toilets. Try that again. Robin slammed his fist to the ground, immediately caving in the floor. Try that again. Robin slammed his fist into the ground, immediately caving in the floor in front of them. One more time.